How's it going, guys? I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about something. Right now we're under the quarantine and can't really get out to do much, so kind of catching up on some of my painting, but most of my minis are now completed. But then I noticed something. I have very little terrain to change up the game. So instead of ordering something offline and waiting for it to be delivered, things like that, I decided to do one of these trash builds for terrain. Just what can I make with stuff just laying around the house? And started scavenging around, my daughter's broken toys, little bits of plastic here and there, and just see what can I just throw together to make something kind of neat. And it's actually kind of fun. You kind of let your imagination run wild. You don't have to make something look like $1 million. It's not going for a Golden Demon Award or anything. You're just making something to change up how your game is played. And you can be proud of it because it's something out of your mind. Whatever you decided to create, there it is. I think everyone has in their mind that everything has to look incredible. It doesn't. It just has to look good to you. And that's the important thing. So I'll kind of show you little, I wouldn't say step by step, but just kind of give you an idea of what I did. And we can go from there. Now this is my very first prototype build. Just a plastic squeeze bottle, some gravel, and a sprue. I cut the sprue up to look like an old rusted fence. Threw on some battlefield grass, a little paint, and called it good. It's very small, but it was a start. Show me what I needed to do. Okay, just finding a few random things, like this old bendy straw. Well, these bends and ridgers in it, once painted, it works great for any kind of industrial looking piping. An old e-cig tank, plastic caps, things like that. I found a little cardboard box, things like that, and we'll just see what we can throw together and just wing it and see what comes out of it. Now I'm assembling everything on this cardboard box because I wanted some different elevation to the game. Now just set things up in random locations and kind of get a feel for where you might want everything to be. Just using hot glue on most of these pieces, and it seemed to work pretty well. A little messy, but hey, it all works. Once it was all glued down, I just went over the whole thing with some black primer just to get kind of a uniform look to see how it was going to look in the end. I started applying some metallic colored paints. These are just hobby paints, just the cheap stuff that I had. I didn't want to use any good paints for this. A build like this is a great time to experiment with your colors, to find combinations that you might like for future projects. And remember it. I didn't want the entire floor to be mud or anything like that, so I've thrown down some little chat to make it look like gravel in spots. I wanted to simulate rock for the edge of the box, so I started ripping up styrofoam and hot gluing it to the edges. You don't want it to look uniform. It all needs to be a little messy and just fill in the gaps and little spare empty places on the side of the box. I'm going to do this all the way around the outside of the box. Okay, I've gone all the way around. Just wanted to give you a quick shot of what it looks like, what I did. Okay, you can just use a lighter and just real quick go over it. You don't want to catch it on fire. You're just trying to melt it just a little bit to make it a little bit more seamless. Also kind of help seal a little bit once you hit it with some primer and some paint. Just little details you can do. not for sure if the camera will pick it up with it being so light, but you can see the difference after just real light with a little bit of heat on it, how it kind of smooths out everything to the part that has not been done. So that's all you're trying to accomplish, is just smoothing it out a little bit, but you're still keeping the texture. So that way, a little bit more realistic, but you know, not going over the top with it either. Let's see how it turns out. To fill in some of the cracks in between, I'm gonna try out this combination. These stone granules I got just at Walmart. Use it for a lot of bases because that one bag, I've had it a long time and it doesn't take much. These little green rocks, it's a little bigger, give it a little bit more variety. I think I picked it up at the Dollar Tree for just $1. So let's see if it works. I'm just gonna put some glue, just some white Elmer's glue in between the cracks, and just sprinkle it in and see if it fills in. Just take a look. Okay, let's try a little test run. I've got a little glue right here. Just anywhere there's a little bit of space. Sorry. Kind of a two-handed job, and I don't have a stand. My damn cat won't get out of the way either. Okay. First I'm going to try some of the green rocks. Just sprinkle a little in. It's kind of getting down in there. Yeah, this really is just a two-handed job, so it's hard to hold the camera, but I did get little bits in there. Get just a little bit more glue in some spots, so that way we can kind of fill it in with some of the finer grit stuff. Like I said, this is all just a test run here. It doesn't have to look like $1,000,000. You're just adding to your terrain, kind of stepping it up a little bit, all with trash. Okay, I'm going to try to add just the real fine grit. Just sprinkle a little down in there. Focus. Doing this outside because it's gonna make a mess. And so you're just trying to get some more texture down in there. There's a spot we need to add some more too. That's doing okay there. Okay, we'll see how it does. Okay, once I'm done. Now the downside of using the white glue, it does take a long time to dry before you can go on to another step. But I think this is working. I don't know, we'll find out together. What do you say? Once we get some paint on it, it'll really start coming together though. Now, just trying to fill in a little bit. Now the downside. I said we're gonna have to wait. I'm gonna probably give it at least 3 or 4 hours, or may even pick it up tomorrow and start putting the first coat of paint on it and get a base color on those rocks. We'll know something tomorrow. Okay, moving on to the dirt and mud area, the place I left black. Just use some thin, real runny crazy glue or super glue. You're just going to want to spread it around a little area. This is to just create some extra texture and simulate the mud and everything, it's not uniform. It's got lumps in it. So this is what you're trying to recreate. Just a little area. Then what we're going to do is take some just regular old baking soda and just sprinkle it on. Just try to cover it up. Now, warning, do not get super glue on your fingers and touch it with the baking soda. It will get very hot. There's a chemical reaction. Just want it covered, and it'll harden up instantly. Then we'll just kind of dust it off. Fill in all these areas. Now that all the super glue is done, we're moving on to the gravel areas. Now I'm just using just a regular gray paint here. And we're going to work that paint into all the little nooks and crannies on the gravel. Really get down into the recessed areas. I know it looks like just wet cement right now, but it's all part of the process. You're going to cover all of the rock area just for the base coat. And I know it's not going to look right. Just be patient. Okay, now I've gone over all of the rock area, gravel. Now this is including the rocks around the outside. You just want it good and thick. We'll make it look realistic in a bit. We just want it gray. Now while the gray is drying, I'm going to move on to the mud and dirt. I use kind of a beige or dark khaki color for all the mudded areas. All the base coating is down. We'll have to get into the highlights to make the rock more realistic. Gotta wait for the brown to dry. Put some texture into it. Maybe some battlefield grass. Okay, with the gravel dry, with the base dry, take like an ivory white and just real lightly, kind of not quite dry brush, but we're just catching the tips of the rock to give it a little bit of contrast. Break up just a solid gray, because real rock isn't just a solid one color. It changes, it moves, it's all organic, so that's what we're just trying to replicate. Just takes a little while. Okay, I've got a few of the white highlights on the rocks here, and then I left it kind of bare over here to kind of see the difference. I don't have the best light for this, but kind of see how just the real light dry brushing kind of brings out the texture of the rock. And that's what we're going for. Got a lot more to do. Okay, now that the brown has dried, we need to get it a little bit of wash in there to show the details and recesses in the area. Because right now it's just kind of bland. But I'm just going to use a cheap method like everything else on this build. I've got a darker brown here, well, chestnut, and I'm just going to water it way down and just drip it into some of these areas just so it stands out a little better. And then after that dries, go over it with a little bit more of that ivory, just very, very light, just to catch the edges and make it stand out a little more. All right, let's get started. A couple drops there and want it way watered down. So you're basically just making a poor man's wash here, and it doesn't work as good as, like, say, this Citadel washes, nothing like that, but you don't want to waste the good stuff on just a little trash build like this. When this will get the job done too. Alright, let's see how that's looking. Pretty thin. Might need just a little bit more water. Maybe that'll get it. There we go. It runs nicely. Okay. Yeah, see how it's getting down in all the cracks? If I can get the camera to focus. Yeah, that's what we're going for. Alright, now I've got to do all of it. Now we've got the brown wash down everywhere. Now it's still wet, but it will fade slightly when it dries. Because we're not looking for an extreme contrast, just enough to break up that solid color. I went around all the parts where it goes from, say, mud or dirt to rock, just going all the way around it, and where the dirt meets the rock, going down in there as well to kind of blend the two together. And I said it's going to look a lot different when it dries. But here we are again. The waiting game continues. Got to dry completely before we can move on. Okay, the wash is dry now. Now, got to do the white highlights just to catch the tips and break it up a little more. And then maybe some battlefield grass and onto the electricity, which kind of worrying me. I've never done before. Now here I just took a cotton ball and kind of pulled it apart a little bit and dusted it with some black spray paint to give it a smoke effect. Okay, time for some battlefield grass. Just a little Elmer's glue. Just kind of pick a random spot. You might want some. Just dab a little down. Spread it around a little bit. I think that'll work. Just a little pinch of battlefield grass, sprinkle it on. After we get enough on, we'll just kind of dust it off. A little compressed air would work, or just shake it off in a little blow. Okay, with the blue dry on the wires, what I'm going to try to do is dry brush a little bit of pure white, water down a little bit, onto just certain corners, and maybe that will simulate the electricity effect. Is it going to work? I have no idea. I've never done it before. But we're going to find out together. Let's try it. Okay, we're going to have to let that dry, and that's about it. Now, what I've been saving for last is right up here. I didn't want any paint going on it, but I had a couple of ball bearings that come out of an old CV axle, and I didn't want paint on them, so that's going to be the last touch. So, break out the old hot glue. Dripped all over it right there. Okay. Top to the Tesla tower. Product. Grass. Smoke effect. The lightning didn't quite turn out the way I wanted it to, but hey. The more you mess up, the more you learn, right? The gravel and rock, I think, turned out decent. And it's all just trash, just stuff I had laying around. Broken toys for my daughter. I think that's a nice little touch. That green stands out. Marines on here to kind of give it some scale. Now, is this perfect? No, but it was fun to build. Now this should bring some more diversity to our tabletop games. Something extra.